All right, welcome back. In this video, we're going to take a look at how to pick up items from the scene that we're working through, from the game, and put them into an inventory. So I hope you enjoy the video, and thanks for watching. Okay, so here we are, and we've got a little bit of our health HUD working now. So I figured in this video we would start working on our inventory and picking up items and how to go about that. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is go in here to content, and I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it items. Excuse me. In items, there's several things we need. The first thing we need is we're going to right click and go under blueprints, and we're going to select enumeration. We're going to call this item type enum. And we'll open that up, dock it so we get the full screen. All right, so items are going to fall into a number of different types, and they can be anything from food. I'll create several of these. It can be food, it can be a tool, it can be a weapon, or it can be just building material. And we'll use that, or maybe we'll just call it crafting material. So it's not really good for anything else but crafting stuff. There might be a few other types as we move along and make things, and we can always add them to this enumeration. The next thing we're going to want again under blueprints is a structure, and this is going to represent our items, and we're going to call it an item struct. And we will open that one up and go up here. I'm going to pull this down a little bit. So the first thing we want is a name, just something to call it that we can display, and I'm going to go ahead and set that to text rather than string. It just makes it easier for us to add it to the UI. If it's already text, we don't have to convert it. We can, if we want, have a description, if we want to extend that out, so that can also be text. Now we want to have the item type, and that item type is going to be of that item type enumeration. So it's got to be one of those item types. And the next thing we're going to want is its blueprint. So this is going to be the item blueprint class. I'm going to put class on the end of that because we're going to select the class in here, but we haven't created that yet, so we have to get to it. So I'll leave that as just the enum type for now. We'll change it when we come back. The next thing we want to know is what the item weight is, because instead of doing slots and a fixed number of slots in our inventory, I'm going to do an inventory system where we have just a bunch of items, and what will happen is they get heavier, we'll move slower, and eventually you'll get so much weight on you you won't be able to move. That's the way, and you'll have to discard stuff. I prefer that kind of inventory system. It's a little easier to manage. And this is going to be a float, and this will be in kilograms because the system works in kilograms. It's physics stuff, works in kilograms, so we'll stick with that. You can always convert if you want. So we've got the item type, we've got the weight. We want to know if it's stackable. So can you have multiple items and just have a single entry for those multiple items? And then we want to know, of course, stackable is going to be a Boolean, and this one's going to be an integer, and it's going to be max stack size. These are pretty standard kind of concepts especially in survival games. So we'll go with that for now. I think that looks pretty good. We'll save this, close it. Now we need to create a blueprint, and this blueprint class is going to be an actor, and we're going to call it item base _ BP. And now that we've got that, we can save it. We can go back into our item struct. I shouldn't have closed it. Should have left it open. And where we have this item blueprint class, we're going to select here item base BP, and not object reference. We want a class reference. We just want to know what class this belongs to. And where did I put that? Put it here under item base class. Yeah, perfect. So we'll save that. That way, this record, when it's in you, this record, so let me explain this. This record's what's going to be in your inventory. You're not going to have the actual like 3D item in your inventory. You're just going to have this record. When you do something with it, like replace it, some items are going to be droppable. In fact, that's probably most items will be droppable. But maybe we should make that a value. Maybe some items are things you just can't drop, so we'll call it droppable. We'll set it to Boolean. We'll save this, and under droppable, I'm going to set some default values now. So I guess you can't set default values in this. Am I mistaken? Oh yeah, you can set them right here. These are the default values. So droppable, we'll leave that as true because I think most items are going to be droppable. Name and description, item type, yeah, that doesn't need to be a default, doesn't matter. None, weight, stackable. Most items will probably be stackable, and the default stack size we'll say is like 64. Or I guess it doesn't matter if we don't have a certain number of slots. Maybe this doesn't matter. I don't know. We'll have to think about that. So we'll close that. All right. Let's open up our item base blueprint. Come on. There we go. So this is going to need a static mesh. So there's our static mesh. And we'll just go ahead and make the static mesh be the default scene root. Just drag it up onto the default scene root, and that makes the static mesh. That makes everything certainly parented to the static mesh and relative to it. We'll compile that and save it. Now, there's a couple of things that we need here. I'm going to go over to the, well, we don't really need anything in the event graph. All we really need here is a function. And we're going to call this function item collected. And what we're going to do, the default behavior when we collect an item is going to be destroy actor. So it'll just destroy the actor in the game when the item is collected. And I'll show you how that works when we get to that particular point. Okay. So we can close this for now. And it's important that that be a function because we're going to override it in subclasses. All right. So we're going to just do a basic item now. I'm going to go get my... so we've got our items folder, right? There it is. Items folder. I'm going to add a folder here in this, which we're just going to call it items, and this is where we're going to put our items, and we can break it down into different subfolders. Let me come over here and find my mesh for this. So I went into Blender and I just created a very simple apple. It doesn't look like much. In fact, we have to add a material for it. So I'm going to add that here. Just add a new material. We'll call it apple matte. And I probably should call this apple underscore mesh because that's all that is. So let's open up the apple material, and we're really simple. We're just going to take this because I'm not really doing materials right now. We'll promote it to a parameter. We will come over here and we will set it to red, some kind of red, and click OK. And that will be our Apple's material. So we can close that. And we can go back to our, oh, it's right here in items. So now we'll just go ahead and create an Apple blueprint. Create a blueprint class, and we're going to select that item base as the base class for this, and we're going to call it Apple underscore BP. And we're going to change that later when we do something else, but I just want to demonstrate the principles here. So we'll open up this Apple blueprint, and under static mesh, we'll pull this down, and we will select Apple. There's our Apple mesh, and here's our material, Apple material, and it's really big. So we want to scale it down, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1 is about right. So it's a nice small apple now. We'll save that. Okay. We are all set to start doing something with our inventory. Now, we're going to do an inventory component, but I'm not going to do that just yet. We're going to go ahead and go up to our characters and blueprints and open up our base player character blueprint. So the first thing that we need in this blueprint is going to be our simple inventory, and we're just going to make a variable called inventory, and the type of this inventory is going to be that struct we made. So it's going to be item underscore struct. So we selected that, and it's just going to be an array of that struct. Very simple. So we have the item inventory. Now what we need is a way to pick up an item when we're looking at it. So I'm going to go here to edit, project settings, and we've done this before. We're going to go to input, and on our action mappings right here, we're going to click plus, and we're going to call this pickup. So that's picking up, or pickup item, we'll call it. And we'll go ahead and use keyboard entry E for pick up an item. That's right next to the W, so it's really easy to hit. And that's what we'll hit when we want to pick up an item. So what do we have to do? Well, our character, if we look here at the viewport, our character's got this camera, and when we're in first person mode, the camera's got that little crosshair that we can aim with. So this is really only going to work when we're in first person mode, but I'm not going to bother with that at the moment. We're just going to set it up, and we'll go into first person mode, and later, well, I suppose we've got this question here. Yeah, we'll say you can only, for now at least, we'll say you can only pick up items when you're in first person mode. So let's add this, let's start by adding this action mapping called pickup. There's pickup item. All right, and we'll get this first person mode over here, and we'll get it, oops, and we will come up here and we'll make a branch. We'll bring this down here, we'll plug this into here, and if we're in first person mode, then the pickup item thing will work. All right, so what we want to do is project out, and what we want to do is project out from our camera. So there's a couple things we need to know about the camera. We need to know its forward vector. This is what it's looking at, where it's pointed. We also need to know its world, WORLD location. So get world location. And what are we going to do with these? Well, we also need a variable, and we're going to call this variable, it's going to be a float, and it's not going to be an array, it's just going to be a value. And this floating point value we're going to call max pickup distance. I'm going to go ahead and hit compile, and we want to remember that we're in centimeters. Everything is in centimeters, which is about a ½ an inch. Well, we got to be able to pick things up further away than a ½ an inch, so we probably want to pick up at about 2 meters, maybe 2.5 meters. So let's make it 250 centimeters is our pickup distance. So That allows us to reach maybe a little farther than our arm could really reach, but it's a reasonable distance. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to take our forward vector here. This is the where our camera's pointing, and it's always a unit vector, meaning it's always got a length of 1. And we want to multiply it, vector by float, and we want to multiply it by that pickup distance. And then we want to take that and add it, vector plus vector, and we want to add it to this world location of our camera. And that gives us two values. We have our world location of our camera, and we have this distance away from the camera in the direction we're looking. So we're going to do a trace, line trace, and we want line trace by channel. And this is what we're going to fire out of this true here when we're in first person mode. So it's only work in first person mode. So what have we got here? In line trace per channel, we have a start location and an end location, and that's what we've just calculated. Our world location of our camera is our start location, and this point here is our end location. And let's take all of this and pull it down here so things are a little neater. We still have some line crossovers, but it's not quite so bad. Okay. So this is going to shoot a line out whenever we hit that E button and we're in first person mode. It's going to shoot a line out, and what do we want to do? Well, we want to take this out hit, and I'm going to split this structure pin. So we've got all this different data we can look at. And what we're interested in is this out hit actor right here. Okay? Well, we want to cast this to our item base BP. Okay. If it fails, it's not our item base, and we're not going to do anything. We're just going to do nothing because it's not an item we can pick up. It's got to be our item base. And so if it succeeds, what are we going to do? Well, we want to take our inventory and we want to add it to our inventory. Like this. But what do we want to add to our inventory? We don't want to add our item base BP to our inventory. We want to do a get item, what did we call it? Hey, let me go back to the item base BP and make sure I did this right. Well, I didn't compile it and save it for some reason. Oh, I forgot a variable. Okay, so our item base needs to have an item description in it. There's an item that I forgot to add to that too. And what are we going to have this be? It's going to be that item struct. And that's going to be the item struct. We'll compile that, save it. In this, it's just going to have those default values that we set, because nothing's ever going to actually be an item base. It'll be an apple or a rock or something. It'll have all that description, and we have to go back and set those things for our apple as well. So we're going to add it. What we want to do is come off here and get item description, and that's what we're going to add to our inventory. And right now, I'm not worried about the concept of stackable or anything. We'll get back to that. Right now, we're just setting up a very basic inventory system that we can work with. It's going to add it, and then what it's going to do is call this function on the base class, or it's going to call this function on that item base BP. It's going to call it item collected. It's going to call item collected to let that thing know that it has been collected. That's important because we're going to override that at some point and make a respawnable item, and we'll get to that perhaps in another video. Right now, the default behavior is that'll destroy the item when we collect it. Okay, so now what we have to do is go back here to our items and go back to our Apple BP, and there's a couple things we need to do. Let's do this. The Apple BP has that static mesh. Why are we not inheriting the variable? It should be over here. Default item description. That's what we want. So we want to call this Apple. Description. A yummy apple to eat. Okay. It's food. That's good. Blueprint class is Apple BP. That's important for droppable items and other things where we can put back in the scene. We'll give it a weight of 10 grams maybe. It's stackable, sure. 64 is fine. And it's droppable, no, because it's something we're going to eat. We wouldn't drop our food, I don't think. Maybe it is droppable. I don't know. We don't care about that right now. We're not going to do, well, yeah. We'll demonstrate, we'll put another function in to drop an item from our inventory. So, let me double check things here. Go back here and save everything. Save all. Save selected. Let's put an apple in our scene. Pull it up a little bit. And let's play and start by seeing what happens. We have to be in first person mode. Not being in first person mode does nothing at all. So we go into first person mode, and if we're here, we click E, it disappeared. The question is, did it go into our inventory? It should have. Let's go back to our player character base, and let's do something here. Let's create another action. So let's go to File, Project Settings, Input, add a new action mapping. We'll just use, we'll call it check inventory, and we'll set it to I, why not, for inventory. And that's probably something we'll continue to use, so that's good. We'll just keep that. But for the moment, all I'm going to do with I is I'm going to go here, check inventory. There's my event. And what I'm going to do is take this inventory. I'm going to do a for each loop. Let's zoom in here a little bit. Pressed. We're going to execute a for each loop, and all I'm going to do off the body is take the array element, and I'm going to do a the array element. We'll do a break struct. Name, description. Okay, good. We'll come over here and we'll do a print string, and we'll print out the name. So when we hit I, it should print out our inventory. If we don't have anything in our inventory, it shouldn't do anything at all. So let's try it. We'll hit I. See, nothing comes out. I, nothing comes out. Let's go get an apple. Come over here. E, we got it. Press I. There, it said apple in the upper left-hand corner. If we get a number of apples, we can set a few of these out. Ah, that was dumb. I took the material instead of the apple. Let's move it up a little bit. Put a few of these out. And we'll hit play. Go into first person mode. Go over here. We will collect these. There's one. There's one. There's one. If I hit I now, it printed apple 3 times. So it's definitely going into our inventory. So in the next video, we're going to do this a little bit differently. We're going to extend this capability to be a respawnable item, and we'll have a different base class for that. Then we can hang these apples up in a tree or something, and when you take them some period of time later, they'll respawn and they'll be back in there. So Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, so there we go. We have a basic inventory working. We can pick up items and we store them in an inventory. So in upcoming videos here, we will expand and enhance this until we have a complete inventory system. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, hit that like button. If you really liked it, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to get notifications when I upload videos, hit that notify button. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.